Hello, and welcome to Neverwhere, Abridged, Chapter 8. Chapter 8 does not open with Richard or Dor at the museum. It opens with Old Bailey. You might remember him from a previous chapter. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but Richard met Old Bailey when him and the Marquis were running around. So Old Bailey is the old man with the birds, and the chapter opens with him sitting on the roof, reminiscing about how London used to be. He is just kind of thinking, lost in his memory of his mind, and he's sitting around his fire, keeping to himself, and then, out of nowhere, the Marquis shows up, and he did not just come for a social call, and Old Bailey knows it. He's, very aware he didn't just come for his fine company, or to eat some dinner around a fire. He means business, and the first thing the Marquis wants to know is, hey, what is this weird statue thing? And it's a statue that he found in Dor's dad's study. And Old Bailey says it is the Great Beast of London. And the Marquis is uncomfortable, Old Bailey's uncomfortable, nobody's happy about this answer, but that's the answer he wanted. And that's what it is. And the Marquis is mad. He's like, the Great Beast died 300 years ago. And Old Bailey is like, no, it's not. And so then the Marquis, he wants a favor, and Old Bailey doesn't want it. He doesn't want to help him. There's a mysterious box that they're going back and forth about, that the Marquis had given him the box and told him to keep watch on it, and Old Bailey doesn't want to, and he's like, take it back. And the Marquis is like, no, you need to keep it for a while, and Old Bailey doesn't want to. And there's a bit of just creepy banter that ends with no real revolution. And then we have a scene change. So now we're to Richard and Dor. And they're in a very mundane setting. They're at the British Museum. They're at the underground station by it. So there's advertisements on the wall for health-giving malted drinks and 2-shilling-day excursions by train to the seaside, and kippered herrings and mustache wax. So, anyways, yeah, Richard stared at them in disbelief. It was a forgotten place. It is the British Museum station, admitted Richard, but there never was a British Museum station. It closed down in 1933, said Dor. So they built the station and then closed it down, but it still exists. So the magic logic is like, yeah, we can still use that station. We'll drop you off at the station that no longer exists. And that's just how you do when you're a magical person. And Richard is, amazed by this being a thing, and Dor's like, no, there's, 50 of these stations. We use them all the time, except some of them not even we can get to. It's, again, more magic logic. And then Dor stops to talk to a rat, and they're having a little back and forth, and Richard is like, hey, can you tell that the rat something for me? And she's like, that's rude, just tell him yourself. And Richard wants to know about Anastasia. So, Anastasia? Oh, God, fuck. You know who I mean. She was the girl that took Richard away from the rat people back in an earlier chapter, and he's afraid that she died, and she wants to know. Well, she did die, and Richard's sad about it. He wants to tell the rat that he's sorry that this rat girl died, and then the rat is like, oh, no, we don't blame you. It's not your fault. And so sometimes people who disappear come back when they disappear in that horrible bridge that they went over. Sometimes they don't, but the fact that you care means you're a good person. So good on Richard. And being a good person is what got him into this mess, because his girlfriend at the start of the story was like, don't touch homeless people, and he picked up Dor because he didn't want to leave her bleeding out, and here he is in this magical world talking to a rat. So anyways, Dor's family has the talent of opening little portals, opening doors. And she's showing Richard her talent for the first time, and they use it to get out of the station. And Hunter's like, I can't go up above ground, I have to stay underground. So they're arguing back and forth a bit, and then Dor's like, you're my bodyguard, why in the world why are we fighting over this? Come with me. And Richard remembered Hunter will look after you as long as you stay in London below. And they go back and forth, but eventually it's like, we have to go up into this museum. And So Richard remembers the Marquis saying that, and he kind of realizes the Marquis knew that Hunter would only guard her down below. So him and Dora on their own, they have to go up and find the Angelus, so they're going. And then Richard is like, man, I wish we had stayed with the bodyguard, and because he's all creeped out, and Dora's like, well, why do you need a guard? And they're kind of having this little back and forth, and then all of a sudden, actually, they say shit. Dora says shit. So our villains, Mr. C and Mr. V, are standing right there. So they walked right into a trap. And they have to decide what to do, and they take off running because they need to get away from them, and they can't give up on their mission. And Mr. C and Mr. V have their weird back and forth that they like to have. You could call me a wolf. So paint me gray and call me a dire wolf if it isn't two little lost lambs on their way out after dark. They're just being weird. So, like they do. And they are... We're going to kill you. We're going to hurt you. Normal, even evil, villainy stuff. So Dora and Richard are on the run. And then we have a scene change. Oh, nope. Okay, it's like flashing of them running around. So they're running about, which is fine. So they're out of breath. They're panting. They're running around. They're trying to open doors. Dora's having an issue. She's tired. She's worn out. Like she opened too many doors today. She can't keep doing it. And they're just making this mad dash to get away. And then we have a scene change back to Mr. C and Mr. V, who are like, from their perspective of following them. And they're mad because they're only allowed to scare her, not kill her right now. So whoever they're working for just wants her terrified. So he's mad that they don't get to kill her. So they're arguing about that back and forth. And then we have a scene change back to Dora and Richard. And they they go past the guards, get into the museum. So they're in the British Museum, running through an Egyptian exhibit, into a room marked early English. So this is like them dashing through the museum. And then they're like, according to the scroll, the Angelus needs to be somewhere around here. And so they're hunting this down. And they hear music, and there's a party going on in the museum. And they're like, according to the scroll, all that they know is that the Angelus will have a picture of an angel on it. And they're like, how many things in one room can have a picture of an angel on it? And little do they know, it's the end of the chapter. But we will find out how many things in one room can have an angel on it in chapter 9.